the spotlight is firmly on the G7 summit as world leaders gather amid mounting geopolitical tensions and economic uncertainty. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has now reached Evian in France for the high-profile gathering. Soon after landing, the Prime Minister took to social media, saying he looks forward to engaging with global leaders and exchanging views on key international challenges. Even as the G7 summit grapples with the fallout of the Iran conflict, Donald Trump has sought to project confidence about the diplomatic track with Tehran. Speaking on the sidelines of the summit, Donald Trump claimed the Iran deal is effectively complete and now moving into its second stage, the next phase, while making it clear that the United States has no plans to pump money into Iran. He also pushed back against reports of a massive multi-billion-dollar fund for Tehran, insisting Washington is under no such obligation to invest.
We have our deal done with Iran, and it should be successful. It goes to a second stage, which I think will be actually easier. The biggest thing is they will not have a nuclear weapon, and that's the reason I got in, and that's the reason I agreed to sign. They will not develop, purchase, buy, or any other thing. They're not going to acquire a nuclear weapon. If they do, all hell will rain down on them, and they're not going to do that,
All right, we also have some breaking inputs coming in. Donald Trump has issued another statement. This is the latest, in which he says, and I quote, "Without the United States, there would be no Israel. Without me, there would be no Israel, because no other president was willing to do what I did. I have had a great relationship with Bibi, but now Bibi has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon. I'm not happy with the way Israel has handled itself with Lebanon and with Hezbollah. They should have been able to do this job faster." Let's go across to our managing editor, Zaka Jacob, joining us live. This is perhaps the most clearest indication coming in from Donald Trump, public statement where he says he's not very happy with Netanyahu, although he shares a great relationship. He's not happy how Israel has handled Lebanon and Hezbollah.
Yeah, I think it's very clear now that Trump and Netanyahu are not on the same page when it comes to this whole Iran war and also, how to deal with Lebanon. Look, both men have different political objectives here. For Trump, it is about extricating himself, about extricating America, and trying to spin a difficult situation, a bad deal, into a good one. That's Trump's objective from the Iran war. As far as Netanyahu is concerned, he has a different set of objectives altogether. He feels that this is a job half done, that Trump is chickening out at this time because he doesn't have the stomach for a longer war. Netanyahu believes it is in his interest, his political objective, to continue this war for at least another 3 to 6 months. Remember, Israel is due for elections in October, and right now, with the way things are standing, there are two other candidates, Naftali Bennett, who leads the opposition, the combined opposition, and there is a new candidate who has emerged as potentially as a front runner. Some of the polls are suggesting that he is the front runner, a former military chief, by the way, Gadi Isfakot, who is giving a tough competition to Netanyahu. So Netanyahu feels, politically speaking, that his best bet of returning to power when the elections happen in October is to continue this war and to decisively defeat Iran. The problem here is this, that they've not been able to decisively defeat Iran. In fact, if you look at it objectively on all of the parameters, on all of the objectives, whether it's the nuclear question, the Strait of Hormuz question, paying damages to Iran, etc., all of those, it's Iran that's actually succeeded, may I even say won this war, and not America or Israel. And I think that's the fundamental divergence between these two men.
Right. Zaka, do stay on with us. Let's in fact listen into that statement coming in from Donald Trump, the latest.
Without the United States, there would be no Israel. Without me, there would be no Israel, because no other president was willing to do what I did. I've had a great relationship with Bibi, but now Bibi has to be more responsible with respect to Lebanon. Now, I'm not happy with the way Israel has handled themselves with Lebanon and with Hezbollah. They should have been able to do the job faster. It just goes on forever. And when that happens, it throws a negative light on the big deal, and that's the deal with Iran.
So Donald Trump may be praising Netanyahu, but it comes with a condition. As far as India is concerned, India may not be a formal member of the G7, but its presence at the summit has become increasingly significant. Year after year, New Delhi continues to receive invitations to the world's most influential economic and strategic gathering, a reflection of India's growing global power. Now, this marks Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 7th participation in a G7 summit, underscoring India's rising diplomatic weight and its importance in shaping conversations on global challenges. More importantly, India is widely seen as the voice of the global south, bringing the concerns and aspirations of emerging economies to the high table of global decision making. Let's go back to our managing editor. Zaka Jacob continues to be with us live on the broadcast. On one hand, of course, all eyes are going to be on the bilaterals and the international community coming together. On the other, specifically from India's perspective and from India's point of view, how is this going to pan out?
Well, so the first engagement that Prime Minister Modi has is the G7 Leaders Outreach program that's going to begin in about 50 minutes time, 3 o'clock local time here in Evian. And that's going to have for the first time participation of members from the African Union. There's going to be the representative from the African Union. There's going to be other members from the World Bank, from other development banks, and the outreach partners this time, in a sense, signify the voice of the global south. Brazil is going to be one of the countries that will be speaking this afternoon. India, of course, the Prime Minister will be making comments in that outreach leaders meeting. There's South Korea, there's Egypt. All of these countries are part of, various groupings like BRICS Plus and others, which represent the global south. And India has become this sort of common voice, or this bridge between the industrialized Western world and the global south. And I think it's important that the global south finds a voice in the conversations today. Remember, the G7 was basically an Anglican alliance between America, Canada on the one side, on the other side of the Atlantic, and the Western European powers like Britain, France, Germany, and Italy. It is only now, for the first time, that the G7 is realizing that they need to be far more widespread in terms of their representation, at least in terms of the people who are taking part in these outreach summits. And therefore, they have reached out to countries like Brazil, South Korea, India, Qatar, etc., who will be part of the outreach program this time around. So that's the first program that the Prime Minister has. Once that concludes, at about 5 o'clock local time, there will be 3 bilaterals that he will have very quickly. The first one with Mark Carney of Canada, the second one with Keir Starmer of the UK, and the final one with MBZ, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the leader of the UAE.
Absolutely. Soon we'll start getting visuals of the engagements, the official welcome as well. And we'll connect with you again, Zaka. Thank you very much for the moment for getting us all those updates, the latest that's happening. A quick break with that. We have a lot more lined up on the other side. Stay on with us.